All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Still Human podcast. My name is Andrew Pakatowski. No offense, what is your name?
How are you doing, y'all?
Is No Offense with me for our first official interview here on Still Human, the podcast. No Offense is a recording artist, and what exactly are you, No Offense? What do you want the people to know about you?
I'm a lot of things, man. I'm a musician, artist, human, anime nerd.
Okay. One of the exciting things about No Offense is that for me personally, especially like from the people that I know within the St. Louis art scene that make specifically more like R&B, hip-hop type music, I think No Offense is probably the most musically inclined. As far as the people who are within my realm of knowledge, he's a really diverse and interesting artist. Experiments a lot. When I met him, I don't think he played guitar. I don't think he played guitar when we met, did you?
I played a little trumpet, but no, I didn't start playing guitar until I was like 22.
He plays guitar now. You're 25, right?
Yeah, 25.
Yeah, so within the span of 3 or 4 years, there are actually videos of him on stage with his guitar singing as he's playing his guitar, which I think for people who aren't like super into music, that's a pretty challenging thing to do. But yeah, my man kills it.
Yeah, big love.
We went to high school together, and
yes, go way back.
Way back.
That's crazy. Man.
It's crazy. We've been out of high school for 7 years now.
Yeah, 7-8 years.
7-8 years. I was thinking like freshman year was a decade ago. When you start thinking about things in terms of like decades and centuries, and like
you're like, oh, okay, this is what it's like to age.
Yeah, it's crazy. I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you is, tell me about your childhood. Where did it all start?
Oh man, I'm an East Coast kid. I was born right outside of D.C., Bethesda, Maryland. Lived there for a few years. My parents were military, so we moved from Silver Spring, Maryland to New Jersey, from New Jersey to Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. Then we moved to O'Fallon, where we both and all that good stuff. And then I've moved even a couple more times than that. I moved to Missouri, and then I moved to the city. And yeah, I think where I'm at right now, I like it the best. But yeah, a lot of moving around.
I didn't know that you were originally born in the D.C. area.
Yeah, man, DMV.
No shit.
Yeah, no, we're out here.
D.C. is an interesting city.
It is.
There's like a lot of polarity in D.C., I feel like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of super rich government lobbyists and super PACs and, these people that run the defense companies and shit. And then there's poverty.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the big polarity right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of good comedians come out of there.
Yeah. One begets the other,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They both are feeding into each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's I've never been to D.C. It's a lot of history in that place. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So were your parents military or?
Yeah, both my parents were military. It was mainly just my dad that was military by the time that I was born, though. And that was wild. Whenever he would be like on deployments and stuff like that, it would just be a lot. I'd always be acting out in school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just being dumb.
Do the finger thing right here.
Finger thing.
Yeah, I think we're still picking you up, but yeah, that's interesting. So what's your relationship like with your parents, if you don't mind going into it?
I mean, it's a pretty good relationship. I would say that they're really supportive. I think that when you're born to parents that are not from America, I think that just begets its own experiences and its own challenges. But I think that those experiences and challenges all made us come closer.
Where are they from? I'm sorry, you almost gotta kiss the thing.
Oh, I gotta kiss that.
Yeah, you gotta do it like that. There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, my My parents are from the Caribbean. My mom is from Jamaica.
Okay.
She's from the country, Spanish Town. And then my dad is from the capital of Guyana, which is in South America, but it's still technically
I don't know if I've ever even heard of Guyana.
Yeah, Guyana is the country right between Venezuela and Suriname.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only English-speaking country in South America.
Really?
I almost knew how to speak Spanish.
Almost, man.
Yeah, man.
Almost.
I'm kind of upset about that, but it is what it is.
That's an interesting skill to learn. Other languages I've tried. I was in Spanish class in high school, and it just like
same.
It's I don't know. I know how to ask you if I can go to the bathroom, man. That's about it.
Puedo ir al baño.
Yeah. That's the one.
That's the phrase.
That's the one. I remember one time in Spanish class, we had to do like a skit, and Logan Horton?
Yeah, Logan. Yeah.
Yeah, Logan gave
Shout
birth.
out to Logan.
I gave birth to Logan. And he popped out to me with a pineapple in his hand. He goes, "Me llamo Logan, me gusta piñas." And it was because it sounds kind of like penis. Yeah. It was a good one.
Oh,
it was a good one. It was a good one. So, all right, we got a good relationship with your parents. We got this is my first interview to all the viewers, so I'm trying to do my best. Now, do you have siblings?
Yes, I have an older sister, Nia. I love her so much.
All right, shout out to Nia. Shout out to Nia.
If it wasn't for Nia, I probably would never have even considered going into the realm of doing music.
What is it that got you? I mean, I guess you pretty much answered it. I mean, her, at least to some extent. What is it that got you into
that and just kind of falling into it? You remember Drake? That's my boy.
Drake.
Shout out to Drake.
Yeah, Drake Berry.
Drake,
okay.
Motherfucking Berry. Yeah. Shout out to Drake. We came up literally because when we got to high school, that was the year that Kendrick dropped Good Kid, Mad City, and so the influence that had on us, not just as like wanting to be musicians, but just like as people.
That was
like
an insane album.
You know, our entire class that went into freshman year, like we had to kind of like come to terms with something like that great and not even understand that it was that great at the time.
Yeah, it was. You know? I remember being like, because you're 15 years old, and like I think the music that you hear between like 15 and 18 is kind of the most like it really shapes your taste in music for the rest of your life.
Oh my goodness, it does so many things.
And it's as far as like music I hear that brings back memories for me, the most songs that do that for me are from that time period. Yeah. And I remember, Good Kid, Mad City was crazy, and I actually didn't listen to when I heard Good Kid, Mad City. I actually didn't have the album. I had a burnt CD that my buddy would play in his car, and it had some of Section 80 on there too.
Oh yeah, there you go.
When I got introduced to Kendrick, it was basically just like all the hits from his first two albums.
Yeah.
And it was fucking insane. I never heard any music like that. Yeah. That and Nothing Was the Same by Drake was a big one for me.
Yeah. Anything Mac Miller.
Yeah, anything Mac Miller for sure.
Most things Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah, Wiz Khalifa was huge too, man.
That's like a regional thing.
Wiz Khalifa, is it really? Yeah, it's kind of some Midwest shit.
At least early on, because they're both Pittsburgh cats.
Yeah.
And so like, I feel like that being like kind of how we grew up in like working class like energy and vibes, and it just being like I'd say St. Louis and Pittsburgh and Detroit and all these places. Have a lot more similarities than differences as opposed to like anywhere that's like on a coast.
Yeah, they're definitely
the South, They're
definitely pretty intertwined. That's one thing I've noticed trucking going up to like Detroit or someplace out in Ohio or some
energy,
shit. Yeah, it's there's just the atmosphere is really similar.
Yeah.
And when you're out in Cali on the coast, it's like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous.
This is a dream.
Yeah,
this feels real.
Yeah.
And that's kind of crazy that people get, to live their whole lives in that and don't see other sides, but
Yeah, it's really a shame because like I don't like the government in California. I don't like the government anywhere really. But
I was gonna say that's
especially in California. I think it's so expensive but there's so much benefit to living out there as well. It's just so fucking beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And you got earthquakes and shit. That's
Yeah,
not
and
good.
they're about
but
to be having floods.
Yeah.
Have you heard about that? They're about to.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's apparently like one of the biggest threats to our western seaboard is not only the earthquakes and melting snow and droughts now, but mega floods.
Mega floods.
There's been mega flood warnings.
So is this like a like a rising sea level thing, or is it like due to storms or?
Yeah, it's all those things. The same reason why St. Louis flooded, over the past 2 weeks.
Dude, me and Echo were talking about that. That shit was nuts.
It was crazy.
Was crazy.
And I just so happen to live in a part of the city where it won't flood like that. You know what I mean? But U City, like out in that area, or even like farther, like St. Peter's and stuff like that. I heard that it was like 10 inches in the course of like 3 hours. That's like.
It was
It's life changing.
The place that I delivered to at my job has like the topography of it will make it so that like the rain won't escape this area if it gets into this area, and there's this like part of the property that's I didn't step in it, so I don't know for sure, but it looked like 2, maybe 3 feet of rain. Yeah, it was like a swimming pool. It was nuts.
People's cars were like floating down the street, so it was getting to that 4 foot level. You know what I mean? Where it's able to actually move cars that are multiple tons.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's crazy.
It was crazy. There have been 2 or 3 times. 2 or 3 times this year driving home from work, and last time I was driving over to Echo's house to record the podcast. I got caught in a rainstorm, and him and I were talking about it. I don't remember ever seeing rain like that. Like I don't remember storms being as intense as they've been this year.
Yeah. It was a rare event that I would remember a lot in my childhood, but like just in terms of like the way things are varied in the weather now in general is kind of wild. Like there used to be 4 seasons. Like I remember walking to school and experiencing all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. This is quantifiably fall. This is quantifiably spring, summer, winter. And now it's just like, oh shit, it's really hot. And then oh shit, it's really cold. And like, I don't know, man. It's kind of just a testament to just lack of diversity in a lot of places in a lot of ways now. Yeah,
it's this is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you think about this shit a lot too. Is just the general direction of not only the country but the planet as a whole.
Yeah.
Like I talk with Echo about this too. Is like sometimes like I get like stressed out.
It's easy to get stressed out.
Ever since COVID hit, it kind of started in 2016 when Trump started running for president. Things started there's kind of a shift in the paradigm, right?
There was a big shift in energy.
And then COVID came around, and that really sealed the deal on it.
It did.
And it just seems like everything's been so much more sensationalized, and like people in general are more insecure almost.
Yeah, I think that's a fact. I think anxieties run high. I think people are more stressed out. People are more willing to jump on you for less reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot of volatility, I guess. Oh, God.
Validity?
Volatility. There.
Volatility. Yeah.
It's there we go. More volatile. Wow. Jeez. And I think that's just a testament to the times that we're living in. I like I said in the beginning, I'm an anime nerd, so I very much so see a lot of similarities between what's going on here and these dystopian anime films that came out in the 80s, like Akira or Ghost in the Shell, or even A Perfect Blue, where it's like the whole perspective of that movie is this girl that's losing her mind, and she can't tell what's reality and what's not reality anymore. And I think that's kind of, we're getting to that point with how technology is getting intertwined in our lives. You have to have a phone.
You have to. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
May not need a smartphone, but you have to have a phone. You have to have something with GPS nowadays. It's kind of just how it is. And I remember when we were kids, like kids, we would be the ones in the passenger seat with the map. The passenger seat was the navigating seat.
I remember when my dad discovered MapQuest and he was printing out directions. It changed the game.
That was crazy. MapQuest was like, I feel like that's what we got to really experience.
We had a Garmin too. That bitch was steady getting us lost, but it was like
I remember those Garmin commercials that would come on at Christmas time, and those little jingles they would have with it, and I'm just like, bro, like the way that things change, it's like I honestly would prefer, just like on a side note, like for like a TV show on Hulu to have commercials, because like trying to pay attention to a whole episode now is getting to be a lot.
Yeah, you gotta. I kind of feel that way sometimes too. Like I'll want to take a break, you know, about 10 minutes into the show. Is like, all right, let me like scroll through social media or like do something else that's not really that beneficial to me, or take a piss or something.
Yeah, no, literally, I feel like the general attention span of I guess humans now is just so much shorter than it was even in 2015.
Yeah, and then before then, even it's just gotten progressively worse, and it's been this. We live in a really crazy time in the sense that in the past 150 years, technology has developed at a rate never seen before in human history, at least recorded human history.
Right.
And over the past, I want to say 20, since the cell phone became small. You know, it used to be that big-ass brick, and then it became small. Since the cell phone became small, it's like everything is developing at such a rapid rate all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever really, like... I don't think the people who are making these things, not that they'd have any interest in doing this because it cut into their profits, but I don't think we as a society in general have really had time to sit down and be like, okay, what are the ramifications to this?
Yeah.
You know? Like, what are the effects that this is going to have on people's mental health?
And I'd argue that there's enough of society that has tried to come to terms with that and has tried to be like X, Y, Z. It's just that, you know, getting people to work together, getting people to work in community, which is what humanity is all about, I feel like.
That's
what's getting lost in the systems that we live in on our daily. You know, living in a system which centers capitalism and white supremacy. When you're living in a system like that, that is not a system that values community, and staying togetherness and looking out for one another. That's just not what it's about. So
it's a tough thing to really put a finger on, because
so many factors.
In some ways, ironically, we have the ability to connect with each other on a level that we've never connected with each other before. With these, but we also feel. I also feel like as a society we're pretty disconnected in general. Yeah,
we feel. I feel like a lot of people feel like we're entitled to knowing more about people than we should in certain ways, and then in other ways we don't care enough to care about people in other ways. So like they're getting pulled to the extremes in both directions, I feel like, lately. So it's been a whole experience. It's a lot of things.
And it's interesting too, because throughout the majority of recorded human history, I don't know if we've ever been super connected. Humans have always been kind of violent and hateful and tribal.
That always is a thing.
I think now you kind of look back at times like maybe the 60s, 70s, 80s, and you see, despite, you know, whatever America was going through at the moment, which a lot of times was some pretty horrific shit, the idea of like a traditional family.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of gone, I don't want to say completely out the window, but it does seem like a lot less people are interested in that now.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, at the end of the day, I think people are really trying to just survive out here.
Yeah, for sure.
And as much as like maybe poverty looked different back in the early 1900s, but like now it's like you used to live in poverty in 1900s and you'd have like not that much food. Now it's like no matter what food you're eating in most situations, it's just not good for you. It's starting to seem like most food that is processed really any way that we've grown up with is just not good.
It's very expensive to eat well.
You know what I mean? And for anybody that's had, you know, the ability to just like leave the country and experience a different country and see how they live and how they eat and how they go through the motions of life and how they experience life, you know, America could never really get behind having siestas like how they do in certain places in Europe and South America. So like like seeing how people live is just like you have to like try and build relationships with people so that you can gain perspective on the world, and you can see why community is so important, because you don't have to have a lot. You just need to have community.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's something that I think needs to be pushed, is just this sense of togetherness. And one thing that I think in terms of like dating, it can become difficult, because that's a big part of community, you know? Just having someone to be in love with and having someone to trust and kind of build a life with. People have a lot of options now.
Absolutely.
That kind of messes with things, and it's
I think women have a lot of options now.
Yeah, women have a lot of options, and rich guys.
I mean, yeah, but I think that like women more than ever now are just taking back the power that was always there, but just not granted to them, because you know, men can be imposing and are imposing. So I think that the standards of what were acceptable in a relationship back in even just the 90s are no longer acceptable. You know, it doesn't matter what you're doing now. If you can't clean up after yourself, you're not going to be able to be with somebody who can and would rather be by themselves in a clean environment. Like, you know,
for sure.
Something like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think the standards have been raised, and that's good, because that just means that it's more accountability for both sides. You know what I mean? Yeah,
for sure. That's definitely one upside to it for women, is just, I think, because I guess it definitely wasn't always like this. You kind of wonder when the switch flipped and women became less oppressed and kind of able to, you know, because marriages used to be forced. You know, it used to be like, hey, you're my neighbor.
Now birth is being forced.
Now birth is being forced. That's a crazy one.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like, I think now it's very clear to women that they don't have to stick in shitty relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if that was always the case. I don't think it was
the case.
Yeah.
I think back, you know, even like mid 2000s and earlier, just the culture of oppression that kind of men impose on women was so normalized that a lot of women felt like it was their duty to stay in a negative situation or something like that, and like that's never what you want, you know?
Yeah, and things like I didn't notice it until I got to high school, really, but things like consent weren't really taught to us, you know? That wasn't a conversation.
I didn't lose my virginity until after I graduated high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't mess with it. I saw some fucked up shit in high school, and
Me
I was
too.
like, wow,
Me too.
this is like not cool.
Yeah.
Like for real. I saw some real not good shit.
Well,
that turned me off to a lot of.
I know that there were some parties that happened, and a girl would be blackout drunk, and you know,
I'm glad I was not at those parties.
Yeah, I've seen. I
would hear the stories at school the next day.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that go down. I've heard stories about it. I know there was one group of girls that would get drunk and then claim they had, like, you know, they basically throw themselves on people and then claim they blacked out and like got raped and shit.
Yeah, there's the whole other side to that too, which is like really fucked up.
But yeah, I mean, definitely in high school, you know, some euphoria shit. Maybe not that extreme, but like,
I feel like probably that extreme. You know what I mean? Like, I had a lot of girlfriends in high school, female friends in high school, and so, you know, that shit was not lost on me, and I stayed out of that shit.
Yeah,
we went to Whole Fallon.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
for
so
sure.
It's like,
for sure.
I was not even gonna deal with that in the first place.
Yeah, it was. But it definitely wasn't something that was like encouraged in the culture. And one thing I did recently, that was really interesting is I watched a Woodstock '69 documentary.
Woo!
And then I watched a Woodstock '99 documentary.
Oh, come on now. Come on now. You're about to, oh my goodness. Get out of my head. We're on the same page right here.
What was really interesting about it was just like the stark difference, you know, like those, just alone in those festivals, when you compare the two to each other, it's a good representation.
On every level.
Yeah.
On every level, from how they were run to the mindsets of the people that were there, to how things were handled in general, you know, and then the problems that they had there as well, because, you know, the 69 one, it was a lot of like STDs and things like that. 99 one is just straight up assaults.
Yeah.
And, you know, the 69 one was like, oh, the food here is like pretty much free because this is about community. And then you have the one in 99 where, you know, by the last day, a bottle of water is worth $12.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, man, those two festivals interest me so much in terms of how culture shifted.
Yeah,
MTV was big then, you know.
It's really insane. You could even in the music, you know, you hear a lot more selfishness and violence in music in the 90s than you did in music from the 60s. And
the 90s were dark.
Yeah, the 90s
We're not gonna
were
act
dark.
like the 90s weren't dark. The 90s were a dark time. It was a lot of like unknowingness, a lot of fear. That was why we had genres like grunge and hip hop, you know, coming from the primordial soup of the working class and the most oppressed areas of society, you know. Seattle wasn't shit until it became something that held a capitalistic value towards, you know, because Seattle was going through the recession out of the 80s super hard. And they were just like a town up in the north, just like Aberdeen was. And it wasn't until that shit popped off. And same with, you know, Compton, same with the Bronx, same with Brooklyn, Queens, Dirty South, all that shit, you know.
Yeah, it was
hype.
But that was one of the things that I noticed about that documentary. The 99 was like there was so much like sexual assault.
Yeah.
Like it was like straight up sexual assault was being recorded and like sold in the video afterwards. You know, it was so normal.
Man, I watched the way that it was like almost like kind of like just like a jungle energy whenever the cameras came out, people wanting to just do dumb shit. Because I mean, you look at the influences of MTV and the influences of just like a lot of music, whether it be rap, grunge, or whatever. It's a lot of negative lyrics, and you know, I'm not going to say that you can't express yourself in your truest form in terms of like talking about what your situation is, but you know, there's also a little bit of onus, I think, to at least try to move things along. And to be somebody that stands for something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's one of the tricky things about making music, and that's kind of one of the quarrels that I had with it is because when I was making music used to be my primary thing, and I've talked about this before online. It was never really like the music that I was in love with. It's more this idea of being able. It's more this idea of like temporal, financial, intellectual freedom that accompanies being a musician or an artist of any kind. Like companies, it's more of like an entrepreneurial spirit than an artist.
It is. I'm very glad you brought that up because that is the mindset that I found myself shifting into more lately. Whereas, as opposed to like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. You're an artist that is looking to get discovered and then propped up and then hoisted up and then you do your thing, and then when you're done, you're done. Nowadays, I would say more, and this is something I learned more as I became more in tune with becoming a musician, was that you're a freelancer. You're a contractor.
Yeah.
When you want to think about it in ways that will make sense as a job, you are like a freelancer. You get your skills, and then you sell your skills, and then you reap what you sow, and then you repeat. And you know, with so many people doing what I feel I do in terms of just making music, I think that there's the balance of like being able to just convert into capital and then fully expressing yourself, also while trying to send a positive message towards people. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole idea.
That was the tricky part for me because like I'm not fucking anybody's bitch, bro. I don't do that shit. Yeah. But sometimes I get up on a track and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna fuck your bitch.
It's like, I mean, and that's I think that's part of a certain level of the culture that people like, and I don't think it's necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just like if you can relate to it, then you can relate to it. If the feelings in in the bars or in the music or in the beat, make you feel a type of way, then let it make you feel a type of way. That's what
Yeah.
music is supposed to do. It's not supposed to do anything other than make you feel a type of way.
That's necessarily a huge moral quail, but
Yeah.
it's tough to make rap music that has a positive message without it sounding corny. Know what I mean?
Because you can't sacrifice the honesty.
Yeah.
You can't sacrifice the honesty and try to and give something that's kind of like, I wouldn't say cookie cutter, but something that's like packaged. It has to be there has to be a certain level of rawness in the rap where it's like, oh damn, it's like, oh, you're saying that, but you're saying that because that's indicative of the situation that you're
Yeah.
in. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like there's a lot more it's a lot of nuance in how to, and that's why rappers like J. Cole and Kendrick are so great, because it's like, yeah, they may be saying the words, whatever words may be offensive to whoever, but it's the underlying message. And I think Kendrick demonstrated this superbly on his newest album, where the line where he was just like, faggot, 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 we ain't know no better. So like, I think when you look at that of way of like deconstructing that type of dialogue, you're able to be in a constructive place, and you're not focusing on what was said, but you're focusing on the discussion around it.
Right.
What is he trying to bring to light
Okay.
by saying that?
Okay. That's deep.
What is he trying to make you feel?
Yeah.
What is he trying to make you feel? And if you feel a type of way, then listen to the rest of the song, because then he relates it to say, well, if you want to be able to say faggot, then this white girl better be able to say nigga. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's why it's like, we should chill. You know what I'm saying? Like, that whole song was like, that was an incredible song. I think that might, to me, is the most important song in the album, in terms of like acknowledging trans people and the LGBT community in rap music, in mainstream rap music, and actually trying to be like, let's have a discussion that doesn't like deviate from the fact that we need to respect each other as people.
Doing
You know what I'm
that
saying?
as the guy who's pretty much the king of this shit,
And doing that as the guy who's the king of the shit just shows why he is the king of the shit, because he's aware of his place and he knows he has to be responsible with the power that he holds, and that's why Kendrick is Kendrick.
That was, man, that's
my boy, man.
That's another album. That's another Kendrick album that was fucking off the chain.
Oh, which one?
Mr. Morale, Big Steppers.
Yeah, Mr. Morale, Big Steppers.
That was
crazy.
It was an crazy, and it accompanied, like, there was so much vulnerability in it.
Yeah, man.
So much insightfulness, and it's, you hear like, there's definitely vulnerable rap albums, vulnerable rap artists out there, but you listen to that shit and you're just like, fuck.
You feel like he's in your skin right now.
Yeah, man.
You feel like he's under your skin, and for me, it was a very emotional album, because I related to a lot more than I would want to.
Yeah, there's some painful truths in it.
Yeah,
there's
some painful truths that brought up painful memories, but what do we say music is supposed to do?
Bring up memories.
It's supposed to make you feel time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, like, exactly.
He is doing his job. He's doing his job, and he understands the assignment very well.
Yeah, man. It's so like.
So yeah, shouts out to Kendrick.
It's so crazy somebody could be that good at something, It's like,
it's that full and utter belief in yourself that isn't, based in an ego. It's based on, no, I believe this about myself, and I do the work for that to be true, and I know that I'm doing the work for that to be true. And when you do the work for the things that you want, then you can walk in confidence, and it won't be an ego. You know what I'm saying? Which is the whole idea.
Yep. It's another thing I wanted to ask you about is ego. I guess wasn't necessarily going to ask you straight up about ego, but I was going to ask you about psychedelics.
Yeah.
Which have a tendency to dissolve said ego.
Yeah, bro. We're just little lilies in a pond.
Yeah.
And we think that every little gust of wind and every little wave that hits us is going to end us, but in reality, we're just little lilies in the pond, and we'll be fine.
100%. I like that metaphor a lot.
You know what I'm saying?
I like that metaphor a lot.
Come on, bro. No, you brought it up, and I was like, yeah, I feel that on another level.
So what's your history with psychedelics? Are you still be tripping balls, or?
Yeah, it just depends on. I like to give myself like a couple of days of recovery time.
Yeah.
For a long time, I just worked like 5+ days a week all the time.
Yeah.
It hasn't been until I've kind of been like focusing on music more and able to kind of convert that into something that helps me, live and pay my rent.
Yeah.
Niggas trying to grind. Until it wasn't until then that I've been able to like take a step back and like have 3 days off, uh, more consistently, than not. So now I'm able to like think about those things more. Whereas I used to be only able to do that on like occasion. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it can be
shrooms are great. Acid's great. I prefer acid. Um, if I'm gonna be like really trying to have an experience, I'd prefer acid. If I'm trying to like just chill, I would prefer shrooms. Yeah.
yeah, they're interesting.
Yeah.
I've had my my thing with acid is that a lot of times you get it and it's like some sort of research chemical or something. There's no way to
Yeah.
really tell.
Yeah. It's hard.
And that kind of makes me hesitant to do it.
You
I've
gotta
had
you gotta
some
trust your source. You gotta trust your plug.
yeah,
Yeah. Don't do any. Make sure you have a testing kit for any drugs you're doing. I hope you guys aren't doing fentanyl or anything
fentanyl or
out
shit.
there, or none
Yeah.
of that stuff. Or even coke. It's like coke doesn't really do too much for me, so I
Yeah,
don't
that's
I
that's
don't
kind of how I
I
am with
don't
it
I don't have
too.
any desire to do it.
Yeah.
But just make sure you guys are being safe. But yeah, back to the whole acid thing. Yeah, you gotta trust
Yeah, and
your
I've
plug.
I've
Yeah.
had some crazy experiences on acid that I don't think they were acid. I
Ooh,
don't think it
somebody
was
putting
acid.
DNT on your your
Maybe,
acid.
maybe not that
Right,
crazy. Not
I was
that
gonna say.
crazy. That's another thing with it
Yeah.
too is like they're putting fentanyl on everything now.
Yeah, dude, they're cutting it with everything so they can make more profit.
Yep.
Everything is capital. Everything is money. Everything is transactional.
Yep.
You know.
And you brought up Coke. A lot of people are getting fentanyl on their Coke, and I'm kind of the
Yeah,
same
man.
way with Coke. My mom's a crack addict, so I never really
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of hesitant towards it, but I know how I am with
Yeah.
drugs, so I've tried it, and I don't worry about myself like developing a
You,
problem. But
yeah.
Coke just kind of makes me like anxious.
Yeah,
It
man.
it doesn't really like I don't know what people are talking about whenever they speak highly of it. I
Yeah,
don't I
man.
don't
I'm
get
just
it.
like, if I wanted my heart rate to increase, I would have just like ran a mile.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's all it does. It's like it makes you feel like you're running when you're walking, and it's like,
Yeah,
what the
it's
fuck?
it's
How
weird.
about never again?
It's weird. But
Ugh.
I've definitely had
Don't do
some
drugs, yo.
some great trips on acid. I've had a lot of good ones on shrooms. I do shrooms more now just because I kind of trust them more and
Yeah, from the ground.
I have a little bit more access
You
to
know,
them too.
yeah.
So what? Tell me about like a profound experience you've had on psychedelics.
It was the first time I did acid. I, while I was doing it, I came to the realization that everything was just whoop. Everything is a circle. Everything is a circle. That's why it's a circle that's surrounding this like button. This play button on here. You know what I mean? Like everything is a circle. Um, or maybe I should say, in terms of interpersonal relationships and understanding the relationship you have with other people, everything is orbits to me. You know how the sun, imagine yourself as the sun in your own life, right?
Okay.
And then imagine your best friends, Mercury, around all the time, and all the time around. And then you have those people that are like Earth, where it's like, okay, I see you like every couple of weeks, or I see you every month, or I see you like every week, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you have the people that's like the moon, or something like that, where it's like, okay, I see you every day, but we don't necessarily interact outside of our scheduled interaction. It's not like a free flowing type of
Yeah.
relationship. It's a relationship that is grounded in logic. We are together because we work together, not we are together because we have a bond. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And then there's like relationships where it's like, oh my goodness, I haven't seen you since last year. How you doing? And then there's people that you see once and you have an incredible connection with, or a bad connection with, and you never see them again,
Yeah.
and everything in between. So
That's a really interesting way of looking at relation. It
yeah,
kind of just blew my mind a little bit.
yeah, man, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, man, like we are the sun in our solar system, but don't forget about all the other stars. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
don't forget about the end, which is the black hole. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as much as you're into your orbit and you have a big ass orbit of a bunch of people or a bunch of money or this, we're all going to the center of the universe to be crushed into that black hole. So don't worry about it.
Okay.
It'll be fine. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
it will be good. You know what I'm saying? Like as much as we try to differentiate ourselves from other
The
people and be
result's gonna be
unique,
the same in the end.
yeah, which is why we have to remember community.
Have you ever had like a full like ego loss experience where you like lose your sense of self or you become like out of your body or something like that?
Yeah, that's been happening all the time lately, but the times when it would happen when I was a kid, I guess I just didn't really understand what was going on. And it wasn't until, late teens, early 20s where I started to understand myself and what I stood for and what was my code, what were my values, you know, how did I not I wouldn't even say how would I want to be perceived, but like who I am, because how you're perceived is not really something that's in your control.
Right.
You can only
You can kind of
do the legwork.
use how you might be perceived to other people as a way to kind of identify values within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um yeah, that gets tricky because you don't want to think about that too much. You don't want to
Yeah.
think about who you are to other people, what other
Mhm.
people think of you too much. But sometimes you can kind of try to guess what other people
Yeah.
think of you, and it'll kind of help you get to know yourself a little
Yeah.
better.
And to add on to that, I think that is a I don't think that's necessarily inherently a bad thing. I think that being able to quantify yourself based off of what others may think shows that you kind of are not taking yourself too seriously, and you're
Yeah.
just like, well, it's like, also, I'm a head ass, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah, I
okay.
feel
It's
that
okay
for
to, like,
sure.
you know what I'm saying? Everybody, and I think that was great that we were talking about how, like, you or I don't want to do just we don't want to be stuck in a category of being like woke or unwoke.
Yeah.
It's about the fluidity of those things and understanding how those things work in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, that's really important to me. I'm glad she brought that up, like, in the very beginning.
Yeah, that was another thing I wanted to get into is cancel culture because
Mhm.
I see you talk about these things and like you're
Yeah,
obviously somebody who has like a very strict moral code and you
yeah, and
stick to it.
that's what's been very crazy about it, is that having somebody question something that is a part of you and what makes you you is really jarring, because you're like, wow, you're really coming at me with a lot of confidence trying to tell me who I am as a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, I know who I am. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's never gonna change. So
Are you referencing the situation that
yeah,
you were talking about?
yeah, man.
Can
That's
you
a
get into that at all or
no, I'm not gonna get into it
okay.
on the podcast,
Okay.
because that's I don't want to give energy to those type of situations, because that's a
Facts.
very bad
100%.
thing.
But
And yeah,
it it relates to cancel culture and kind of
yeah,
back to that.
yeah,
It's been an interesting thing to observe for me because I'm not really like I mean, I don't know how you could cancel me. I mean, how you gonna
yeah.
what are you gonna make my 80 podcast followers unfollow me? Like
Yeah, I feel that.
it's
I think for me, it's I don't know. I just was raised on all you have is your name, so don't do things that would ever tarnish your name, and that's what I live by. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so,
and it gets kind of tricky because I mean, I make a lot of fucked up jokes,
yeah,
and I don't mean a single fucking one of them. You
yeah,
know, it's not
yeah,
like I'm just fucking around. And for me, I guess, growing up and having the kind of trauma that I had in my childhood and the amount of it, the way that I
hmm,
kind of own that stuff was to make jokes out of it. And
yeah,
it's like one of
yeah.
the first steps in my
I feel that.
healing process. And I can't think of anything you could ask me about myself that I won't, talk to you about. And I'm kind of like that
Yeah,
with everybody. I'm pretty much
yeah,
an open book. And that's
yeah,
a lot of that has to do with comedy and the way that I've dealt with pain with comedy. And if you make jokes out of bad things that happen to you enough, you can kind of look back on them, and it is like a way to own it.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I've been going to therapy a little bit recently.
Ooh, you're
One of
doing
the
what I need to do. I would love to go to therapy.
It's fucking expensive.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
You know what I'm
it's
saying?
ironic because like the people who need it the most probably can't
Yeah,
afford it, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And I can't even I don't go very often for that reason. But
Yeah.
I go from time to time. One of the things I learned in therapy is this idea that if you can't talk about something, then you're most likely not over it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It was and I would say that that rings very true with my last relationship. It wasn't until I was able to be like, okay, like, this happened, but I'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
wasn't until that
Yeah.
happened that I was able to, like, do that, and it happened pretty quickly because I would say I was rationalizing a lot of things and understanding what was happening, but not necessarily feeling them all the time. Initially I definitely felt it for like at least the first couple of months.
Yeah.
I felt dead. I felt like dead as a human being. And then later on, I felt like I was making some progress, and the progress may have been just burying the problem deeper. Um, because a year later, I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, at that point in time, I can look back and see where my mindset was at, because XYZ has led me here now, and I can see how much even healthier I feel like I'm of a mindset I've been right now. Um, but I cope with tattoos. I cope
Yeah.
with I cope with painful things by rewarding myself with pain. It's a
It's-
crazy thing. Yeah, it's man, I miss the needle. I miss the needle all the time.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah,
Like tattoos are
yeah.
actually like healing for them in a
Yeah,
way.
it's a way for me to take back power from myself, because I went through a lot of shit as a kid. I was abused as a kid,
Yeah.
from various sources,
Same.
physically, sexually, verbally,
Yeah.
um, and it's happened like in my 20s as well too. So like a lot of my ways of coping with feeling like I was helpless at those times, is getting tattoos, because it's like
You're like choosing to inflict the pain. You're
yeah,
choosing to feel the pain
yeah,
yourself instead of somebody else just
yeah.
inflicting it on you.
Yeah, and I get to have a beautiful piece of art afterwards that never leaves. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
That's what I like about tattoos is the
Yeah.
art. That shit hurts.
Yeah, man.
Like, I don't like that part.
It's if you get when you start getting like bigger tattoos, you realize that like after like the first half hour to 45 minutes to an hour, you start to go into a state where you're pretty numb at that point, and
Yeah.
you're just vibing in like a pretty steady amount of
Well,
discomfort,
it's like an
which is
endorphin rush.
yeah, that's
And
a thing too
yeah.
as well. Yeah, man, tattoos are great. Shout out all the amazing tattoo artists in St. Louis,
Yeah,
and
notice
fuck
you've
the
been
couple ones that are pieces of shit.
you got inked up since the last time I saw you. I
Yeah,
don't think
man,
you
I'm
had
at
this much
like
on you.
yeah, I'd say like 35% of my body's tattooed now, because I got some stuff on my I need to get my back, my right leg, but other than that, once I get my neck done and my hands, I'll be pretty
I want to get a
pretty good to
tattoo
go.
of
We're getting there.
a top lip on my right butt cheek and my bottom lip on my left butt cheek. So then, like when I'm laying sideways, it looks like my butt's a mouth.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah.
I'm here for it,
I
as you
feel
should.
I feel sorry for whoever has to do that one.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Whoever has to spread your cheeks.
right,
That's crazy.
and shave them because I
Oh
can't
jeez.
do it. Uh,
No.
but no, like I
Somebody's
I make I make
love
a lot
this.
of fucked up jokes and I make a lot of offensive shit, and I don't
Yeah.
do it like I'm not gonna like direct them at people. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do. There's a time and a place for them. If I'm on my
Absolutely.
podcast and I'm trying to be entertaining, that's one thing. If I'm like out at the store and I see
Yeah.
someone who's I don't know, they're missing a foot, and I'm like, ha ha, look at your foot. That's
Damn.
that's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's bad.
That is a no
And
good. Yeah.
it's
But
it's this thing that the cancel culture thing's been interesting to me because I make
yeah.
those jokes and you hear a lot of comedians talk about this too is like they make these jokes and it, a lot of them are actually like really like emotionally intelligent, sensitive, accepting people
Yeah.
that just kind of notice the differences between certain characters and certain groups and I think understand them and accept them to the point where they can make a joke about it and actually be funny.
Yeah. I feel that.
It's weird because like you can hear like a comedian make a joke about a different race
Yeah.
and they make it work and it's funny and you can tell they're not like hateful about it, but usually when you hear like a racist make a joke about a different race, it's not that funny.
Yeah.
It's not even a good joke.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
Yeah.
and maybe some of
Yeah.
that's just hearing that and be
I
like,
feel that.
oh, he believes that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting if we take the dynamic of that and kind of like utilize that in black comics making fun of white people. Like, I feel like even if I was white, I wouldn't be offended by most of the things that black
Not at all.
comics say about white people, because they're just funny.
I
You
look
know what I'm
I look
saying?
forward to it.
You know
It's
what I'm
like,
saying? But a lot of times when it's like a different, type of relationship, or a different type of joke, or different races talking about other people, you can see it's like, okay, like you're a white dude and you said something that like would be considered maybe racist. or would be considered racist if you're just looking at what you said. But if you're like, if you're funny, then you're funny, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and two things can exist at the same time.
yeah,
Like,
for sure, for
and
sure.
that's the even more crazy part is that there's a lot of like racist people that are just funny, bro. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fucked up. It's fucked up, bro. But like,
It's
like,
no, there's definitely some
yeah,
truth to that.
yeah,
A
man.
lot of
Donald
that,
Trump was terrible, but he has
he's
some really funny
he's a
moments.
funny motherfucker, bro.
But obviously he's a piece of shit. Like, it's like
He's a piece of shit,
you
but
know anybody with a brain knows that he's terrible. But like,
he's the funniest president. He's
I'm dead.
definitely
Yeah, he's like,
he's
he's also the fucking worst.
he's
Oh my
the
god.
worst. That funny and president don't go together
Yeah. Or I mean,
apparently.
he's neck and neck with George W.
George W was pretty
George
fucking
W was
funny.
hilarious. I would actually I might have to redact and say that George W may have been funnier than Trump because
He had
George
a
W didn't really know why he was funny. He
yeah
just would see people laughing and be like, "Oh, should I say
yeah
that again? All right, I'm gonna say that again." Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think in terms of like what I like in humor, I think I might like George W. Bush funny
yeah. That
more and think he was funnier.
I could see that. He was a cutie.
He's a goofy
He was
little war criminal.
he was a goofy little war
Goofy
criminal.
little war
He
criminal.
was a goofy little war
Oh my
criminal, but
god,
it's
they're all war criminals.
it's weird because I don't necessarily believe in canceling someone, but it depends on what they do. I
Yeah,
mean,
always.
R. Kelly,
Yeah,
probably cancel him.
yeah.
You know,
Cosby.
probably
Yeah,
Cosby for sure, for sure,
yeah,
for sure. I might bump that Ignition remix from time to time.
yeah.
It's all good.
I'm
He's in
dead.
jail. He's in jail. I'm not gonna say good things about the guy.
Yeah.
Um, but people who like a lot of times you'll get on like Dave Chappelle's a good example.
Oh my god, yeah.
When they canceled him for they've canceled him for trans shit multiple times.
And my piece on that is that my problem with how he went about doing it, as opposed to, because like I would say the first three shows in that series were funny and touched on good things, and he was able to get his point across.
Mhm.
The last one seemed like he really was way more emotional about it than he has been about other things, and that made it to me less funny because I was like, bro, it seems like you're getting in your feelings about this for
Yeah.
real, and that's making that not funny, and it's making you seem like you're saying this out of hurt instead of out of understanding, and
Yeah.
that's why I was like, bro, that's not cool.
It was a complicated thing cuz I try to empathize with him with a guy with that level of fame and he's people saying all this shit about you that might not necessarily be true. I can see where it would
Yeah.
be hurtful, and I can see where might want to bite back. But I didn't really like. It was hard for me to tell where he was coming from because in that
Yeah.
last special, that joke that he closed on when he told that story about the trans woman
I
that he
was
let
like,
open for him, I thought it was a beautiful story in a way,
yeah.
but I couldn't like.
It's like, why are you even? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say though?
Yeah, because there
You
was
know, I
something
was like,
else
what are you
to
trying to
it.
say, bro?
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's almost like there was like this thing where he was like trying to like prove.
Yeah, trying to prove himself to people. It's like, bro, you gotta prove yourself to people, bro. If, like, you're a good person and you're a good person, like that's who you are, bro. No matter what people say. And I think that Dave, to his core, is a good person, but I don't think that what he was saying was, one, executed well, two, it wasn't funny, three, it seemed like he was just butthurt, and I'm like, bro, it is sounding kind of transphobic, but it's also just like, I don't know what is more with the situation that I'm not getting, but like, figure that shit out and like come to terms with it more before you make a special on it. You know what I mean? It felt like it was very undeveloped idea what he was trying to say.
It might have
You know what I
been.
mean?
It's always hard to tell with him because he just has so much. A
He's
lot.
usually fucking wise as shit.
Yeah, well, a lot of times he just goes up there and says shit. Like not so much in his specials, but he does. There are times where he just goes up on stage and just talks and just makes
Yeah,
that shit funny. He really is a master at the craft.
he really is.
He's
Yeah,
prolific as fuck.
yeah,
Um, but it's so weird because there's definitely these behaviors that should be discouraged. And in that sense, I think cancel culture's provided a great benefit. I think in general people are
yeah,
if maybe disconnected but more accepting.
yeah. I think that cancel culture isn't necessarily cancel culture, it's just like accountability culture, and it's
Yeah.
just like, if you're like a piece of shit, then like you need to be held accountable for it. You know what I'm saying? That's mainly where I'm at. I don't think it's necessarily gonna I mean, it could fuck up people's lives, but I don't think it's necessarily the point of it. I think that there's going to be people on both sides that are going to be like, they're going to try and make accountability cancelability,
Yeah.
and some people are going to try and make accountability not accountability, and they're going to be like, no, don't worry about it. It's like, no, we need to worry about it. We need to have a discussion. We need to say things about it, but we're not bringing it to the point where it's like, well, what more are you going to do? Do you want to,
In general,
do
I
you want to,
think
do you
I
want to
think
cause him physical harm? Do you want him to go to, you
right.
know, if what he did was illegal, then yeah, go to jail. But like,
In general, I think people are forgiving of certain mistakes. I think
yeah,
people have the ability to be objective and forgiving and to
yeah,
kind of accept that somebody made a mistake and accept that they're human. At the end of the day, we all fucking do it.
yeah.
Um,
And a lot of people and a lot of things, a lot of times people react in these ways from their ego, and a lot of times a lot of people just don't give a fuck because they're too busy, like I said before, trying to fucking survive in a
yeah,
society that's trying to kill us at any point in time.
yeah,
So it's like, that's also a thing. There's only so much time people have to focus on whatever they said versus they said,
yeah,
or how,
yeah,
or what he thinks, XYZ. A lot of people are really just focused on their lives, and I think that's really a transformation that I've seen more, is just kind of just a lot of people are really trying to take back their lives and like get to where they need to be. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. There's definitely, I think, a lot more ownership than there was, say,
Yes.
20 years ago. I
Yes.
think
Responsibility.
people are more in tune with the idea that they can follow their dreams. I don't think people are so scared of having to settle for something now. I
Yeah.
think people are a lot more willing to take risk to do a lot more profound shit than they would have 20 years ago. And
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're realizing how not real any of this is.
yeah,
We're like,
that and
oh, I should actually,
we're realizing how possible certain things
yeah,
are.
a lot of things are,
And a lot of things are more possible now than they were 20
Yeah,
years ago.
exactly,
But
exactly.
we people in general, even if your intellectual quotient was
Yeah.
100
Uh
in
huh.
1990 and your intellectual quotient is 100 now, you're going to be a
Yeah.
smarter person. Now people in general are smarter because we take in so much more
Just more
information
information. Yeah.
and
But with that information has to come understanding too,
and
and
responsibility.
applicability
Yeah.
as well too,
Yeah.
which I think in the younger generation, I think they have a lot of information, but I think, and it just comes with time. That application, that understanding of how to apply that information to the real world is going to come with time. So when you see
Yeah.
all the kids born after 2000 reaching their 20s and mid 20s and 30s, I think you'll see a maturity in the understanding of how to execute the amazing ideas that I think that our generation and the generations after us have. Because I just think that a lot of people growing up today, a lot of kids are just some good kids, bro.
Yeah,
A lot of good
a
kids.
lot of them are good kids and a lot of them are like insanely smart. I have
Yeah,
friends
it's
that
great.
have, younger brothers or, I got a nieces, nephews, cousins and it's like these kids are like it's like they all got their shit straight, you know?
Yeah, bro.
It's like all of
Yeah,
them have their shit
yeah.
straight. And I mean, I'm sure
It's a
they
beautiful thing.
deal with some kind of insecurity on their own or whatever, but there's
Yeah.
not like I don't think at least within what I've seen there's not as much bullying going around.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I think that's a fact. I think that there's a little bit. Well, yeah, there's less bullying, but there's more school shootings. There's more murder and death,
Yeah, that's a
and
problem.
so
It's
things have kind of like balanced, or I guess unbalanced out in certain ways, and it kind of fucking
yeah, what do you
sucks, man.
it wasn't like that's
And just
what do you think that
violence and stuff
is?
like that. It's lack of community. Everything goes back to lack of community, or racism, or white supremacy.
So just
It's
okay,
just
so
like,
just
what was that one show where there's this one show where it's I think it's called Black AF. And it's the creator. His name is Kenya Moore. He's the creator of Blackish and Grownish, right?
okay.
And like one of his catchphrases in that show is because of racism. It's like why do black people like butter pecan ice cream? It's like because of racism. Because like back in the day, black people weren't allowed to have vanilla ice cream because it was white. So we literally had to get butter pecan ice cream, which its main ingredient is
Yeah.
vanilla, and that's why all of our black aunties and our dads and our moms and our cousins would love butter pecan ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Like everything goes back to that shit. It's
That's
really
interesting. I've never
wild.
heard that specific stereotype.
Yeah, no,
No
that's
butter
that's
pecan was a
that's a
thing.
real thing. That's a real thing, bro.
Wow. Yeah, it's
That's crazy. I love
it's
bringing that one up. Most people haven't heard that one.
yeah.
That one's really funny.
That's interesting.
That's a really funny one.
It's racism in America's it's crazy because there's been racism throughout history,
Yeah.
but the way that we did it in America,
Whew.
it
Y'all made
was
sure motherfuckers not recovering from that shit, bro.
it was such a like sophisticated system.
Yeah, man. Like it was very detail oriented of how to break down a black person's psyche and rebuild up that person as just a body to
Yeah.
work. And the fact that the black spirit never broke and retained its ability to be strong and to be black. Um, it's like no matter what problems we face as a community now, the fact that we're still here is part of the miracle of being
Yeah.
black. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
for
the
sure,
fact
for
that
sure.
we were able to even do that. You know, in Argentina, they pretty much exterminated all their black people.
Yeah.
You know, the genocide of black people has worked in other countries. You know, Argentina is the main example that I'm familiar with, and like, like it's just so wild to me, like how much of capital and how much of like socioeconomics and how much of the black dollar affects how the world runs, you know? Black men, black women, we only make up, and you know, all genders only make up about 13-14% of the entire country. And yet we're everywhere. Black people are everywhere.
Well, when you American culture in general
Yeah.
is very very like black culture has I think more of an influence on American culture
And
than
then
any other race you could think of. You know,
honestly,
when it comes down to
honestly,
the music that we listen to, the
facts,
way we dress,
facts.
the shit that we watch on TV,
Yeah.
um it's all like a lot of it is rooted in just African American
Yeah.
culture and
Yeah.
African American dynamics within the
Exactly.
community.
Yeah.
And I think more people are starting to see that now.
Absolutely. It's
Personally, I
great.
mean, personally for me, if it had to be a culture of any of the races that we have in America, it's probably the best one, probably the coolest one, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
probably the one with the most swag.
I'm dead.
Um
Swag. Yeah. I'm fucking dead. That's hilarious. But I mean, you know, at the end of the day, the kind of swag isn't just, you know, just only limited to black people. I think it's all people of color that went through the similar
Yeah.
experience that is attributed to mainly black people in America. Helps make shit happen. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like,
if you go back to World War II and the
yeah,
Japanese internment camps, and
yeah. Speak on it.
there's plenty of instances of racism in America that don't necessarily have to deal with black people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, if you want to look at the most prolific one, if you want
Yeah,
to look at the one that kind of sets the tone for all the other ones, it's where
yeah.
you're gonna go.
Japanese internment for sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
it's one thing that I have a really like a really polar love hate relationship with America.
Yeah, man.
I like
Yeah, I like being free, but I also don't like being not free. Ain't that a bitch?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because there's some things about this place that just make it the greatest country in the world. And there are
Man,
some
there are some
things
things.
about this place that make it one of the shittiest fucking places in the world.
Yeah,
You know,
man, that dichotomy is ridiculous.
it's like I'd rather live here than China for sure. I'd rather live here
Yeah,
than Russia for
yeah.
sure.
But
Now,
Spain, you know, Spain, Spain
Spain's
is cool.
nice, and
You know, London, pretty
yeah,
cool. You know, so
Sweden, I guess.
sweet. Yeah, any of the Scandinavian countries,
Yeah,
they seem to have a lot of shit figured out.
yeah, they do.
You
They
know,
do. They seem to, and I don't know if that's
they're not absolved of their role in colonialism either, but
they
um,
they arrest a lot of rappers in Sweden for some reason. I don't know what the deal
yeah,
with
what's up
that
with
is.
that? Yeah,
Who
free Britney
ASAP?
Griner.
Yeah, Free Britney. What the
Free Britney Griner. That's literally just
9
spite. That's the Russian government being spiteful.
9 years, man.
Yeah, that's the Russian government being spiteful, and it's disgusting. And I don't know if it would have been any different if it was a white man. We can't say that for sure, but you know, it probably would be different. It probably would have
Probably,
been different. You
probably.
know what I'm saying?
It's
So hey,
it's it's hard to say, I guess,
yeah, it does
because
just
there really wouldn't be a white man in that position. You know, she's going over there to make money that she can't make here.
Yeah, like
And um,
her even being there in the first place is a testament
yeah,
to the gender inequality that is still happening right now. It's like, why should women WNBA players, professional basketball players, have to supplement their income by going to a foreign country?
yeah, it's
This is the league.
it's weird because I mean
It's crazy.
there is the argument that they aren't as big of a draw. Okay, but they're a subsidiary of the NBA,
Yeah,
and the NBA makes so much fucking money.
yeah, bro.
You'd think they'd be able to disperse it differently.
Yeah, man, they should do it where it's like something where it's like they could like have the women's game like before the men's game or something to like boost, like getting people in them seats,
It's
bro.
an
Because
interesting idea.
I mean, you got to at least try to for for that to happen. You can't just have like college superstars going into a league making as much as like anybody in tech would make. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
the other side of the coin is people going into the league that are men, making enough money that they will never have to work, and 4 generations of their family will never have to work again.
Oh yeah, you can
So it's like,
play 1 year in the NBA as a first round draft pick, and you're set for
and
life,
you're
man.
good, and
If you
probably your
spend
kids
that money
too.
well,
Yeah,
it's that's athlete pays crazy because at the end of the day, you're playing a game.
yeah,
You're the best of the best in the entire world, and
and
I understand that.
yeah,
And there's a
yeah,
lot of money that comes into the consumption of your sport.
yeah.
But man, who was Juan Soto? I think is the guy.
What's that? Baseball player. Is he the Yankees? Yankees.
He just signed with the Padres. I think he
Yeah.
was in Washington,
Okay.
and
There's some Yankee
they were
knockoffs, right?
trying to like extend him, and he decided to sign with the Padres. But it's like a $500 million contract
Yeah,
this guy has.
it's ridiculous.
Baseball money specifically
Baseball
is
money is
insane.
dumb,
Yeah,
and
baseball money is ridiculous.
that's
And
just crazy, man. I mean, but you see how the Cardinals give life to St. Louis, man. If the Cardinals weren't here, St. Louis would be a dead city. End of story.
yeah, I
You
mean
know, and
Cardinals
as
and the
racist as the
Blues and
Cardinals, organization can be, they're part of the reason why
tell
St. Louis is
tell
there.
me about this. Tell me about this. I haven't
I
heard
mean,
this.
historically,
Okay.
historically,
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
not
a
gonna say that's not at every club, but just because it's other places doesn't mean it shouldn't be.
yeah, I think if you
At
were
least,
if you were one of the clubs that was around before, the Jackie Robinson era,
yeah,
you're a part of that.
you know what I'm
Even a
saying.
little bit after the Jackie Robinson
You know what I'm
era.
saying. What is the structure of how you're operating? It's going to be a structure of
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. Like, but at the end of the day, I think the Cardinals do more good than bad, at least from
Yeah,
what I'm
for sure.
experiencing
For
right now.
sure. I
So,
mean, people in
in my
St.
perspective,
Louis love the Cardinals. It's like
yeah,
one of the most loyal fan bases to any team of any
yeah,
sport in America. It's kind of crazy.
yeah. I'd say arguably it's got to be either Cardinals, Cubs, or like Blackhawks fans. You know what I mean? Like Blackhawks fans are
Yeah,
woo, they go
I'm a
crazy.
Blackhawks fan.
I'm a Blackhawks fan.
And
You know what I'm saying?
I'm a White Sox fan and a Cubs fan. People don't like to hear that.
Yeah, it's like which one?
It's like
Which one? I'm
it's not
Sox.
that
I'm
big of
I'm
a deal.
I'm White Sox for life,
I
but
like the Sox more, but I like the
same.
Cubs too.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Chicago sports teams and going to those games and shit.
Yeah, same.
Um,
Illinois
yeah,
shit. You
for
know what I'm saying?
sure. And
That's funny.
I don't know if I compare. I guess people who are really about their teams are really about their teams, no
Yeah,
matter where you are. But there's
yeah,
just something the way the Cardinals integrate with the community in St. Louis is kind of different
yeah,
than things that you see other places. And I think a lot of that has to do with just a winning history. The second
yeah,
most World Series wins in the
yeah.
history of the
Second,
MLB.
second to the Yankees.
And
Shout out the Yankees. I'm a Yankees fan too, so
yeah, I like the
love
Yankees.
love the
They got a
Yankees.
lot of swagger to
My
them.
dad's a Yankees fan. My whole family's a Yankees fan.
Um, the Mets are cool. New York's just cool, man.
Yeah,
New York's tight.
New York is lit, man. I have a feeling that there's gonna be a time of my life where I may be living there. I
Really.
think that would be really dope.
I think
Um,
if I had to choose between New York and LA, I'd go New
New
York.
York, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Living wise, yeah, maybe to visit and make connections in LA, but I don't really see the. I mean, I see why you would want to be there all the time, but like without having like ridiculous amounts of money, it just
Yeah.
And I'm not. I don't think I necessarily am trying to have ridiculous amounts of money. I think I would just want to be good.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying. I want to be good. I want to be able to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish.
That's
So yeah,
kind of how I want to have enough money to be able to spend the majority of my time doing things I enjoy,
Yes.
and
Yes.
have some luxuries. I definitely want to travel a lot and
Absolutely.
have like a cushion and shit. But um, back to New York.
Yeah.
Because I fucking love New York. I've never been
Yeah.
there, but I love the idea behind New York City. One
Yeah.
thing that's I specifically
Ugh.
like about
Got a lot of love for New York.
New York culture and just like the Northeast culture in general
Yeah.
is like, you mentioned the sense of community, and
Yeah.
in New York, you don't have a choice. It's just
Yeah.
there's so many people and it's
Yeah.
so packed.
Yeah.
But there's also this like,
There is a sense of community in New York too.
yeah,
Like we're all here. We are all the ants, and we are all acknowledging that we're all the ants
oh,
trying to make something happen. You know what I mean?
people from New York, whether they were born there, they live there, they fucking proud of that
Oh
shit,
my
bro.
goodness, yeah, as you should be. You know what I mean? Like I never lived in New York, but my parents, when they first came to America, or at least my dad when he first came to America, it's Jamaica, Queens, it's Brooklyn.
Yeah,
It's Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Come on. And like that shit just bleeds through a whole generation.
It's
And
such a
it's going to see the rest of my family. Most of my family lives in New York, so
it's such a
it's crazy.
cultural hub. New York
Yeah,
City
it's amazing.
might be the most diverse place in the world as
I'd
far as
say
culture
I'd say
goes.
arguably it is. I think you can safely say that New
It's
York
up
is the
there.
most diverse place on the planet.
Yeah.
I think New York City is the center of the world, and that's very American of me to say.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I know
Um,
what you mean though. It does kind of like people in foreign countries that when
it's the
they
epicenter.
think about America, which is a dream for a lot of people in foreign
Yeah,
countries, like we're
yeah,
like the dream.
we're the dream. I mean, they're not dreaming about St. Louis, but they're
No, they're not dreaming about St. Louis, but they're dreaming about New York.
and maybe Chicago though, which is
Yeah,
not too
maybe
far.
Chicago. Maybe Chicago.
Chicago is the underrated big city in America. It's
Yeah,
the most
Chicago's
underrated big city.
probably
It's just lit.
as
Chicago's amazing.
as far as livability goes, it's probably the easiest one to live in
Yeah,
too.
these big cities
Between
are.
LA, New York, and Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
it's expensive. All big cities are expensive. Most big cities are expensive, I
You
should
get paid
say.
a little bit more.
Yeah. A little bit.
You don't have to really deal with security deposits on houses because tenant laws in Illinois are actually really good.
Really?
Like if a landlord doesn't pay the money back on a deposit within like 2 weeks of like the person vacating the premises, they owe that person like 3 to 5 times the amount of the security deposit.
Oh,
So a lot
wow.
of places are just like fuck a deposit, just start paying rent. So like a lot of
Right.
places in Chicago are lease by lease. Um,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
yeah, I
Tenant laws in Missouri are vastly different.
shout out to Jake Berry for giving me any information that I know about Chicago. Yeah, one day we might live there together, bro.
it's a
That'd be
it's a
dope.
cool city. If it wasn't
Yeah.
if the winter wasn't hard to drive a truck in, I'd probably live
Woo!
there right now.
Yeah, man, that's the main thing that's been fucking it up with me. I think that Chicago in the summer may be one of the best places in America.
Yeah, summertime
Um,
shy, baby.
you know what I'm saying?
It's great.
Oh my
It's
goodness,
great.
that cool breeze coming off of the lake is just amazing.
Yeah, man.
Um, Lakeshore, going down Lakeshore Drive, that shit's
Mhm.
just beautiful. But yeah, dude, like that's just one of those things that
See, I don't
suck.
I don't
Weather,
mind the cold and I don't mind snow, but now that I drive a truck for a living, I mind the
you
snow a
understand?
lot.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
snow is a ooh.
And I mean, I've always like understood the inconvenience of it. I've never really liked driving in it, but I could always, usually even I lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for
Whew.
like 3 months.
Lansing.
Nah, the Upper Peninsula is the biggest. So it's like the part of
I can pull
Michigan
up a
that
map or
isn't
something.
attached to Michigan. It's actually
Yeah.
you
Oh,
you
Lansing is attached to
yeah,
Michigan like that.
you get there more quickly going through Wisconsin than you do actually Michigan.
Yeah, yeah.
Um
There's bridges though connecting them, right?
yeah, there
Yeah.
is. It's the most northern part in the continental US. And there's the biggest city up there is Marquette. It's like 20,000
Oh, that
people.
makes sense because the Earth is a globe.
Yeah.
every time I look at the globe, when you look at it, it's deceptive because the United States looks like it's going like this,
Yeah.
with Seattle and Maine being the two highest ones. But in reality, if you're looking at it straight on
Yeah.
with the curvature, it'll actually be
Yep.
that.
That
Damn,
little middle's right up there. You
awesome
can
shit.
drive right to Canada. And it's
Woo!
it's beautiful up there. It's one of it
Yeah.
does they have seasons. They have seasons in the Upper
Yeah.
Peninsula of Michigan. Fall is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So when I was up there, fall was gorgeous. But
They have seasons even now in the 2020s.
even in the 2020s, man,
Wow, look
it's
at that.
nuts.
I
It's
think that might be
nuts.
the move. I've been feeling a move to like Montana or Wyoming
Oh
or
yeah,
like
those
South
places
Dakota.
are fucking beautiful too,
Yeah,
man.
man.
But
Winters are harsh.
I was up there October 7th, which is my birthday. There was a foot of
Yeah.
snow on the ground.
Whew.
A foot.
Whew.
And
And
everything
you were
so
you were driving a big old 18-wheeler.
nah, this was when I was about to go to trucking school. So I wasn't
Okay.
trucking yet. I was there's a lot of poverty up there and there's not a lot of job availability. I just have a cousin that lives up there, so I was kind of crashing with him. But there's not a lot
Yeah.
of job availability, not a lot of opportunity up there.
Yeah.
Everything pretty much pays the same. And if you're doing, if you're making 40 grand up there, you're doing well.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
but I was a housekeeper at a Days Inn, which was
Yeah.
an interesting gig, something I never
Yeah.
really pictured myself doing.
Yeah.
But
How is that?
it was chill. It was chill. I just, I walked around all. This was during COVID, so it wasn't super busy. They weren't cleaning every room every day. It was just whenever somebody checked out, you go clean the room. So
Right.
it was chill. I just put my headphones in, and I was getting high at this point in time. I get high as fuck, and then
Yeah.
walk around and clean shit.
Incredible.
And it was a 45-minute drive from the house that I was staying at.
Oh wow.
Because everything up there, even the cities are like really far
Super
apart.
spread apart. Yeah.
So there's like a foot of snow on the ground, and I got my fucking Honda hybrid
Yeah.
front wheel drive, fucking 6 inches off the ground, trying to make it to work in that bitch. And it was interesting. It was interesting. A
Yeah.
lot of people drive in snow like there's no snow on the ground, which is very scary to me.
It's very frustrating to say the least. Specifically, at least in my experience in St. Louis, it's like, yo, what you're trying to do is not going to work. It's only just going to damage your car and
Yeah.
hopefully not my car.
Yeah. I got I bought the car I have now, I bought it brand new, and within the first year I had it, I got rear-ended once in the snow. Some lady she was driving, I was sitting at a stop sign, she was driving up and she stopped too late and went up onto the curb and clipped my back bumper, nothing happened. Then another guy hit me in a Ford Expedition. I was sitting at a stoplight, he just rammed my shit. And I haven't even gotten it fixed. You can't even really tell. But yeah, people,
Holy shit.
a fact that's kind of scary to me. I don't know if it's a fact, but U.S. World and News Report put out this article. It was a list of the best drivers in the country, and St. Louis was number 2. It's,
So where is the sample? Where is the sample information?
That's kind of
Sample
what
data coming from?
I imagine it would be like a measurement of vehicles on the road versus accidents,
Yeah.
something
St.
like
Louis has been
that.
doing better lately. Last year was pretty bad. There was a lot of accidents like last year.
Yeah, there's still. I
Doing a little bit
mean,
better now. I haven't seen as much in the last few months.
it seems like people are driving slower to me now.
Yeah, it's very rare that I have a reason to speed unless I'm trying to speed around people who are driving in a way that is making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I usually go about 10 over.
Yeah, I feel
5,
like
10
10 over
over.
is good.
5,
You know
10
what I mean?
over.
10 over is very good, very realistic.
If you if you want to tell the people something amazing for a second, I'm gonna go find my laptop charger.
Hell yeah.
We are about to die.
Oh no, don't die. Yeah. No, I'm for real just chilling though. I'm watching this show on Hulu. It's called Woke. It's really good. But I'm also. Ooh, oh no! I just got sucked into my phone.
Happens to the best of us.
You know what I mean?
Quite frequently. I'm gonna plug this for a second. We have a lot of moments like this on the podcast. There's a lot of
It'd be like that. We can always cut it out if we want to.
Drop that, but I dropped it. So we could cut it out. It's more work for me, so usually I just make the viewer fast forward. We actually don't our clips do well, but
Yeah.
converting those clips to listeners and
Yeah.
viewers of the
easy.
podcast is not easy at all.
Yeah, because you have to, because the little tidbits, it's easy to get out and for people to digest. But whenever you're doing something that's kind of like a long form form of media. Like this is in the realm of movies, even though
Yeah.
it's not movies.
Yeah.
It's not the production level of movie.
Yeah, about hour and a half,
You know,
2 hours, hour on the short end, and then
so that money is fun. It's funding.
yeah,
That was what is what's required. Capital, um, promotion on a different level than music.
yeah, to a different
Yeah,
demographic because I'm
of
I'm a
people. Yeah,
big consumer of podcasts, but I mostly
yeah,
listen to them while I'm either at work or I'm driving or something like that.
right.
I don't really sit at my house and listen to podcasts, but I will look at clips, and there's definitely some value in the clips. Doing well, but yeah, converting it's pretty fucking crazy. It's pretty
Yeah.
difficult. So, last thing I'm gonna ask you about here. Maybe the last thing. Let me look at my thing. I went entirely off script here. There was a
Yeah, man. We had a good little talk.
yeah. Usually I have this thing that me and Echo go off of, and we kind of stick to that. But this has been pretty natural. It's,
Yeah,
it's
man.
interesting. It's kind of the first podcast I've shot like that.
Yeah, man. I feel like that's important to have for authenticity to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's tricky because when me and Echo do this every week, and we kind of just like run out of shit, you know. So it's good to have a template and have something to go back to. We definitely go on like tangents and talk about a lot of random shit, but it's good to have this. But I've barely used fucking any of this. It's interesting. Um, so one thing I wanted to ask you was who or what inspires you in your pursuit of making art?
Um. Honestly, there's always the element of wanting to get to know yourself a little bit better, and whenever you're able to create something, that relationship with yourself is always like promoted, and there's always growth in that way, in a healthy way, I think. Um, in terms of like outside sources of inspiration, I would say like there's a plethora of artists. There's a plethora of just like people in my life that inspire me. Like that it's not even necessarily like you do music, but the way that we interact inspires me to go hard at music. Like
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
coworkers from jobs, last job, two job, three, four, five jobs back that still inspire me to keep making music because they saw me at a point when I was making music and I was like a little baby music person, you know what I'm saying?
baby
And
music
you know
person.
what I'm saying? That's the podcast title right there, baby music person. Because I mean that's how I feel,
Yeah,
having
no, I know exactly what you
you know what
mean.
I'm saying? I'm just a little
Like
baby music person.
you listen to music from a point in time where you really didn't like have any idea what you were
Yeah,
doing. You're
but it
just
was so
like,
pure.
yeah,
It was so pure, and not forgetting that purity and maintaining that desire, that kind of like childish desire for what you're working on to happen. I wouldn't say it's really obsession. I think it's just like it should be a playful childlike thing that you do consistently.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's
working on it. Okay,
it's interesting. I see Echo do it, and he's to the point
he's
now
getting
where
that shit. He's getting that shit.
oh yeah, he's getting it.
He's getting
He's
that
getting
shit.
it. I mean,
Oh
yeah,
yes, Echo.
he's doing
Come
he's
on,
doing
bro.
quite well, man. He's
Yeah,
played me
man.
some shit recently that's
It's
just
some beautiful shit.
oh yeah,
I'm very, very, very
yeah.
proud of Echo.
And he does the way he does it is so interesting to me because he just freestyles everything. I can't do that.
He's a feeler, man. He
Yeah,
really
man.
can feel that shit out and be like, okay, this is how I'm gonna, maneuver it in this musical situation, and
Hmm.
he gets it,
But
damn
he's
near every
he's
time.
done it, and I had this revelation last time I was with him, and he showed me some new songs. It's like everybody that started doing it, when everybody started doing it, our whole like most people from our area and our little
Yeah,
crew started doing
we
it,
start doing it.
who
Yeah,
kept doing it.
yeah.
Is they're about at their 10,000 hours,
You know what I'm
It's
saying? We're
getting to the
getting there.
point, yeah, it's getting to the point where, these it's kind of being mastered by some of them,
Yeah,
and
we're getting there.
it's a cool thing to hear, man. It's a
Yeah,
cool thing to hear. I've always thought Echo shit was hard, but I listen to
yeah,
him now and I'm
man.
just like, man, what the fuck?
Yeah, man.
Like,
I was trying to figure out like what type of crack was he putting in that music, bro. I was like, bro, this shit's
yeah,
fire.
man. And some of your shit, I was listening to Hidden Drive,
Oh yeah, man. The
prepping for this interview.
young Noah
Then
before I was Noah.
I was listening to Aries Moon,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, what? Like,
Yeah, that jump was crazy.
yeah. I was
That
like,
jump
what
was
the
crazy, man.
fuck?
There was so much life that happened between Hidden Drive and
Yeah.
Aries Moon. It just makes me really understand why Frank Ocean takes a long time to drop music.
Yeah.
Because from Channel Orange to Blonde, it was like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And gosh,
One of the interesting jumps that was made is a lot of the instrumentation was
yeah,
like you.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you and the homies, and I think
yeah, man, we're out here.
who who did, because you had like a guy who produced most of the songs on Hidden Drive, didn't you?
Whoo, man, you're talking about the legend. Oh, you're talking about the legend, Jimbo.
Jimbo, yeah,
Jimbo,
that's his name.
man,
That's his name.
the legend of Jimbo. Y'all, man, it's like a myth because he can't even like. For most people, he will never exist to most people, but for me, he was one of the most solid people in terms of music and just friendship and communicating with people and building a relationship with somebody. He was just one of those people that got it, bro. Like whenever I would be kicking it with Jimbo and Drake, because that was the first people that was making music with before I met you or anybody else. Um, we were really just like the freaking the three musketeers out here, not knowing what the fuck we were doing, but knowing that we wanted to do something and having a lot of passion for it,
Yeah,
and waking up every day thinking about it and making music because not making music was way more painful. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So like, yeah, Jimbo's incredible, dude. Shout out to Jimbo. Big J.
Where's he been?
Um, he is one of those people that is like not no social media or none
Just
of
a
that
low key
stuff.
dude.
Yeah, and I don't know if I have his number. His number has changed, but um, he had moved to like out of the state and everywhere now. Yeah, but I don't. I think he has a kid and everything now too, which is amazing.
This is
But
this is kind of off key.
yeah,
But one time when we were at Max's house
yeah.
in
Oh
O'Fallon.
my God, we were schleeming back then.
We were
I
sleeming
remember when me
hard.
and Max were on our run. That was a
Yeah.
beautiful run
Yeah,
too.
you guys made a lot of
That
music
was some
together.
good music,
Yeah,
man.
man. Yeah,
Shout out
man.
to Max. Tidal Wave is a classic
But
ever.
I remember one time we were up when his room was upstairs. We were up in his room. And it was like a party. He was having this party at his house, and Drake was showing us some music.
Yeah.
And Max walks in the door, and he's like, "What the fuck is this shit?"
I'm
I was
done. I'm weak. I love Max.
like,
Max is an author now. Max is an author now. Max
yeah, dude,
writes books.
his
Holy
books
shit.
going crazy.
He's a book writing, world traveling person now. It's fucking incredible to see the growth.
Yeah,
I
he was
love that shit.
that specifically was a funny moment. I'll
Yeah.
never forget that for some reason, because I was listening. I was like, this is great. Like Drake goes hard. But like,
Oh yeah.
but
I don't know if I was there for that, but
I thought you were. But
I might have been.
I just remember.
But didn't remember.
I remember everybody in the room being like, "What the fuck, Max?" And then Drake was like, "No, no, no, it's cool, it's cool, it's cool."
I think he was like really drunk.
Yeah,
and he was just like,
he
"What the fuck's
was.
going on?"
I think. Well, I don't think Drake was drunk, but I think
No, yeah.
Max was.
Max was really
Yeah,
drunk.
Max was
and
really
that's why
drunk.
Drake was chill, because like he was like, this dude.
But it was fucking hilarious. It was fucking hilarious. But yeah, Max is out here writing books and shit.
Yeah,
That was crazy when I saw that, because
Yeah.
I hadn't talked to Max in a while.
Yeah.
I hit him up if I see that he's in town. I'll hit him up. That's
Yeah.
about it. But he hadn't really like put anything on social media that was super indicative of what he was doing. I just saw that he was like he put books on there a lot. Like he'd read a lot, and
Yeah.
then he'd plug the books and shit.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that he was like actually going into being a full-fledged author.
Yeah, I didn't know until he posted about it.
And from what I've seen, I haven't read it. Books are I kind of
Movie when I get home, and I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, I only have the attention span of like literally like being on my phone.
Yeah.
Like having something in the background, like.
Yeah, it's not so much. I mean, I don't know. Attention's kind of hard to come by for me too sometimes.
Yeah.
But I read because I know it's good for me, but I don't particularly enjoy it.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I read is usually nonfiction, because I'm like, okay, if the only reason that I'm doing this is because it's good for me, then I'm gonna read something that I can
That's
learn
real.
something from. But that book's done well from what I've seen.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I think he's killing it, bro.
He had
He's fucking killing it.
interesting way of dropping it that I'd never heard of before. He like put it on some website, and then
Yeah.
built some anticipation dropping it chapter by chapter.
Yeah, bro. It was like it was what I would compare like Bandcamp for authors. It
Yeah.
seems like that's kind of like the
Yeah.
most similar way to describe it so that
And he
people could
he
understand.
dropped it in a way that was almost like a TV series.
Yeah.
Just dropping it
Yeah.
chapter by chapter
Yeah,
instead of the
episode
whole
by
book at
episode type
once.
shit.
It was a really interesting way of doing it, but he's done well on I forget the name of that site, but he's done well on it.
He's doing really fucking well, man. I'm hella fucking proud of him. He's one of them people when he sets his mind to something, he's gonna accomplish it. That's just how
Yeah,
it is.
he's always
Yeah,
seemed
man.
like a pretty motivated, driven kind
Yeah,
of,
man.
knows how to really get down
Gets
and
it. Yeah.
grind.
That was something that I had always respected in him was that, and that I think fed into me and made me want to be somebody that showed more passion, about what I did and
Yeah,
stuff like
it's
that. So he's a big motivating factor in that.
he's one of those guys, and I've ran into some people like this that have definitely helped me grow as a person. He's one of those guys that like you're like, okay, Max, do you want to go throw darts into buttholes in a month? And he's like, yeah, we'll do that. And then those plans don't fall through with him. You actually go throw darts into buttholes,
Yeah, man.
and
Max is real. He's about his shit.
that's
He's about his shit.
yeah, that's an important thing. A lot of times, especially doing this, since I've kind of tried to have more guests on,
Yeah.
it's hard to find people. A lot of people will be like, "Yeah, oh, come on, let's do it this time and this time and this time," and then
Man.
the day comes around, you're calling them, and you're like,
Yeah.
they're like ghosting you, and then
Damn, you just reminded me. I feel like I might be ghosting somebody right
oh shit.
now. Hey, man. We learn. We fall down, but we get up.
It happens.
You know
It
what I'm
happens.
saying?
It happens.
But yeah, we'll tell them later. But yeah, dude, that's a whole thing, and I think that is part of my whole kind of viewpoint on how people are in or out of your orbit. You know what I'm saying? Because they're always going to come back around, but the time frame of that is always going to vary. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? There's always going
Yeah.
to be, and some people see it or they synthesize it in like seasons. They'll be like, oh, there's seasons. People are in your life for seasons. I just like to visualize it more as like orbits because it makes more sense in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like that example has been proven with us because we've like orbited in or out of our out of each other's lives, just like every 6 months. Because I remember when we
Yeah.
were down and we were me, you, and Dogo were doing modeling for Trump Fear.
Yeah.
And then I remember
That might have been the last time we
that
hung
was the last
out
time
with
we
each
were
other.
hung out in person.
Yeah.
And that shit was, man, the amount of shit that happened from that point on till now is just insane.
Yeah, it's a
man.
lot. It's a lot.
But you're one of those people that like you can literally, I can open the door and be like, okay, bet, and it's like we're picking right back up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's so.
Those are
so nice.
really those are really fulfilling relationships to have because
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, it's especially when you're trying to grow a business or a podcast or multiple businesses and make your art. A lot of that time is spent alone learning, trying to figure out ways to grow. Maybe you find a different job that's more time consuming or takes more of initial investment to get into so you can like fund shit like this or something like that. And that's like it's hard to hang out with people sometimes.
It
And
is.
I feel it a lot
Yeah.
because a lot of times I'm like kind of socially unsatisfied, but it's like
Yeah.
I know where I'm trying to go, and from everything I understand about what it takes to get there, it's going to require me to spend a lot of time alone, which I need a lot of alone time
Yeah.
anyway.
That's real life, man.
Yeah, but it's good to have the
That's real
people
life.
around that understand that and can kind of
Yes. Because those are people that understand your boundaries, and those are the people who are willing to love you in the ways that you show them that you need to be loved.
yeah,
If
for
you're
sure.
like, yo, I need space and I need time, and you have to come around XYZ amount of times and they respect that, that's how you know they love you, and that's how you show them that you love them by telling them what you needed in the first place.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm
For
saying?
sure.
So like, I don't know. I'm big on that type of shit. I'm very big on boundaries. And all those types of things. I think boundaries are how you show people you love them.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Keep hitting my
there's a interesting I think boundaries and compromise are probably the top two things it takes to really maintain something with somebody because you'll
Definitely.
be one of those people that needs it's an easier example to use in terms of like a romantic relationship, but your
Yeah.
boyfriend's one of those guys who just needs to be alone a lot, and your girlfriend's someone who needs a lot of attention and
Yeah.
quality time spent. You got to kind of find out how to mediate that.
Yeah.
Um,
Or you have to find time to mediate that, and if you're able to come to a consensus where both people are happy, then yes, continue. But if you're not able to come to a consensus,
it's time to go.
it shows more love to end it than
Yeah,
to trying to be in a situation where you both are not able to have your needs satisfied.
yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, one last
So
thing.
yeah.
One last thing. Uh, Russia and
Woo.
Ukraine, China and Taiwan.
Yeah.
These sort of foreign conflicts that America's, as you might expect, dipping their hands in a
Yeah.
little
All these
bit.
proxy wars.
Um, I has your mood been affected by these conflicts at all? Expect more specifically the Russian Ukraine one, because China Taiwan hasn't fully set off yet. I think it's going to, but I do you do you have like kind of a pit in your stomach about it? I guess.
I would say as an American, yes, and as a black person, no.
Okay. Okay.
I would say that, of course, as a human looking to other humans and empathizing with other humans, that shit is unequivocally fucked up
100%.
across the board.
100%.
Um, and I think it's no better than any battles that were happening in World War II or the Korean War or
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Well, a lot of people,
Yeah.
have been going off about Ukraine and
Yeah.
Americans. I think a lot of us are specifically opinionated on it for
Yeah.
whatever reasons those might be. A lot of it's just media sensationalization. A lot of it's just
Yeah.
because we know that like there's tension between the United States and Russia anyway.
Yes.
And whenever they do
Yes.
something like this, it kind of brings us closer to a conflict. It gets everybody on edge. But
Gets everybody riled up for sure.
at the
For
same
sure. For
time,
sure.
Yemen.
Yeah. Yemen, the Arab Spring in general,
Yeah.
Syria,
It's
Palestine.
I think
Um,
I
you
think
know,
what I think what we're doing in like Yemen and Syria right now, especially, it's kind of in a sense it's almost darker because
yeah, it's diabolical.
we're just why are we blowing them up?
Yeah,
What's is it like a favor for Saudi Arabia or something? I
that,
haven't.
that that would make sense. There's any number of reasons that we could say that is either being pushed by the media or not, or there's any number of reasons that we could like deduce just using our own common sense, like what you just did. Like common sense would say, hey, that seems like something we would do for a Saudi prince. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah,
for a country where most of the 9/11 attackers were Saudi Arabian, we really have not stepped foot in Saudi Arabia.
no,
We've kind of were like, oh, let's just actually go into a Middle Eastern country and fuck up every other place other than Saudi Arabia,
yeah.
which
It
is where
doesn't.
most of the terrorists were from. So
Well, that I mean, the whole
that's interesting.
fucking the whole post 9/11 response was ridiculous. We
Oh my
basically
god.
took out Al Qaeda in like 2
Yeah.
weeks, and then
Yeah.
there was this
And
whole
then we're just killing citizens at that point.
yeah WMD
Man.
scandal, and then recently we pulled out of there, and people were falling out of planes.
Yeah, man.
That was
Leaving a
crazy.
leaving a vacuum for the Al Qaeda that we had destroyed
Yeah,
18 years earlier,
which
and
is
now it's
exactly when we went in there and made. Were we fighting the Mujahideen or were we building up the Mujahideen?
so back in the 1980s, Russia, I believe, invaded the Middle East,
Yeah.
and America supplied AK-47s and RPGs to Mujahideen freedom
Okay.
fighters who
Okay.
were fighting against Russia. Subsequently, those Mujahideen fighters had to fight Americans, as America did the exact same thing that Russia did.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
That was a real interesting gig, because one of the guys that was an asset for the CIA at that point was Osama bin Laden. He was one of these
Yep. Hmm.
Mujahideen
Boom.
guys, and then while
Boom.
this war was going
Boom.
on, the children in Afghanistan were going over to Pakistan to go to school.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Pakistan had this very anti-America type curriculum, or anti-democracy type curriculum,
Yeah.
or something like that, and they came back from Pakistan, I guess, radicalized. So
Yeah.
after those kids had grown up, they come back to Afghanistan, and all the destruction that Russia and America left in Afghanistan, plus the weapons that America left in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
we pretty much created these problems we have in the
Oh yeah,
Middle East.
absolutely. And it was even before the 80s. It was we can get into Israel and Palestine, but I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
we all know that Israel needs to figure shit out and Palestine needs to be free. And
yeah.
you know what I'm saying, bro?
That's a crazy situation in itself
Yeah.
too. But
Free Palestine and my niggas. Everybody. Free everybody.
it's yeah, it's trippy because I it's like you said, it's kind of not different than a lot of the conflicts that have happened throughout most of history,
Yeah.
but there's just this thing where you in the nuclear age when superpowers start having tensions, there's a little extra level of
It's a
anxiety
little
added to
extra level
that.
of anxiety, yeah, because back when back when World War One happened, it was just like, obviously. I mean, I think World War One is probably one of the worst wars in my
It was
opinion.
horrendous.
I
It was
think it may have been the
horrendous.
worst war of all time. Just because of like the sheer like, hey, run into this machine gun real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's do that. Let's
The
do that.
way it was fought in trenches with
The
all
way that
sorts
was
of
fought was just
diseases, and
pure idiocy with no regard to human life.
it was
It
carnage.
was the biggest
Yeah.
waste of human life that has probably ever happened on this planet Earth in terms of just like the volumes and the short amount of times that it happened. Or at least America's involvement in it was only 4 years. And I think America lost like 100,000 people or some shit like
And
that.
kind of the reasons that it happened. I mean,
100 people. I need to look these up. Look up these facts.
looking back on war, the World War specifically, but war in general, it's hard for me to think of wars that are like should have happened. You can see we're like, okay, that needed to happen. World War II is one of them,
Yeah,
where the Nazis were doing Nazi shit,
they were doing that shit. Yeah, that
and you're
definitely did
like,
happen.
okay, this we needed to have this war. But I can't think of any other wars that are like that. I know there's got to be some that exist, but
The Civil War.
yeah, the Civil War, the Civil War,
The Civil War.
yeah, the Civil War, Revolutionary War, maybe.
From the U.S. perspective, the Spanish American War and the Mexican American War, in relation to, because I feel like Mexico was much more of a superpower back when the Mexican American War happened than they
Yeah,
are now, in terms of like you comparing it to how America has firepower now as opposed to back then. America was way more ragtag back then than they are
oh yeah,
now. America is just like we're so ahead militarily of every other place that's why these conflicts are happening, is because we have to justify making these weapons in the first place, so that we have to kind of just like construct a conflict so that we can get some money from Lockheed Martin and
yeah,
fucking Boeing, so that we can contract some shit out, and so that all those people in the government that are taking payouts from war happening can get their payouts.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that their stocks can
That
rise. You
military
know what I'm saying?
industrial complex,
Yeah,
man.
man.
It's crazy how
Yeah.
that works.
Everything.
Things in general when you get to that level of power, that system in itself is very uh, you can make it sound good when you're talking about the fundamentals of it. You know, you can
Yeah.
make the American government and the way that it's set up sound very romantic and appealing.
Only you can only make it sound romantic when you're demonizing something else. Whenever you're speaking on America and how it should exist, you can see the problems very clearly. But whenever you're using it as a way to be like, oh, these people are bad, it's easy to rationalize, because it's like, oh, those people are bad, so we got to get these weapons. Duh.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, no, America does this really cute thing where it likes to go in, fuck up and destabilize a region, pull out a vacuum wars that's happening between the whatever two factions or three factions are existing in that country,
Yep.
and then we go back in with a solution, and then we say, hey, here's the solution, guys,
The solution
and now
never
we've just
works.
profited off of the problem and the fucking solution that we've made and patented now.
Yeah.
So like, that's what
The
that's what the crack epidemic happened.
Yeah, the solution often that was an interesting one too, man. You're pulling out a lot of gems.
Yeah,
So
man, I
it's
know.
but the
Keep going, man.
crack
Keep going.
epidemic was fucking crazy because it
Yeah.
was basically you're trying to fund this rebel group in
Yeah.
Nicaragua. So
Yeah.
we were like, okay, let's flood the African American communities
Yeah.
with cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, wait a minute, America, we have
Yeah.
a drug problem. Drugs are running rampant in our streets. So let's
Yeah.
arrest all of these people who are selling cocaine, which has now been turned into crack
Yeah.
on a industrial scale, by the way,
Boom.
you get more time for crack than you do for cocaine.
Boom.
Um, and also, none of the people who are selling this shit are white. This
Boom.
isn't in white communities.
Yeah.
And so you have the military industrial complex at work there, and then you have the prison industrial complex at work there. So a lot of prisons are for profit, a lot of
Yeah.
prisons are private, which is fucked up.
Yep.
We have the highest rate of incarcerated citizens in the world,
The entire world.
which is
It's crazy, bro. The way
but
that
we're
we punish people for existing is ridiculous.
yeah, it's especially when it comes to things like drugs.
Yeah.
So many people now are in jail for weed.
Yeah.
And you
Still.
got people who at one point supported that investing in weed companies. It's crazy, man.
It's diabolical.
It's crazy. And I've worked for a weed company for a while.
Yeah, I think that's when we last left off.
Yeah.
That's
And
what you were doing.
when I was working for this weed company, it was astonishing because it was run by a family who definitely had some mob ties. At least at one point. They came up in the 1920s in the trash industry in Chicago. So they had some mob ties for
Oh
sure.
yeah, because
Yeah.
that's literally
Al Capone era, they didn't have a choice.
yeah. I mean, the whole idea of recycling is a mob scam.
Yeah.
Let's
And
not even get into that. But yeah.
and so these guys who've been rich for generations, it was some rich guy had some kids and his son went to college and fucked off and he was literally like the definition of a spoiled rich kid. He was just 40 or 50 years old. Owned this company and it was it was amazing because they put it in East St. Louis because they got a certain tax credit. The way it works in Illinois is you get a certain tax credit for your business if you hire, at least in the weed industry, if you hire people from certain disadvantaged areas. So
Wow.
they put the place in East St. Louis and hired a lot of people from East St. Louis because of that, which I mean, giving jobs to the community, it's kind of like weird that it's formatted like that, but
Yeah.
it's a good thing, in some ways. But
Logically, yeah.
these guys, like, the whole the whole ideological premise of making weed legal in Illinois when they did it was to make up for all of the shit that went down in the black communities specifically because of the criminalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
But you're in there and it's one of the greediest company I've ever worked for. Besides
Wow.
maybe like a lawn care company that I worked for once. It was
Oh my
incredibly like
goodness.
it was insane. They had these grow rooms and the grow rooms would get moldy and instead of cleaning the grow rooms they'd just have you plant another crop because they were trying to meet their bottom line, couldn't wait 2 or 3 hours to put some new plants in there. A lot of the weed
Wow.
was moldy. They'd like cheat test to put it out. They did a lot of shady shit there. But
Wow.
one of the things that was really interesting to me is I worked with I worked with a girl. I don't want to say her real name, but we'll just use a stereotypical black girl name, like Nisha or something. So,
For sure.
so
Or Jennifer.
or Jennifer, but
Ashley.
like a Shaniqua or like one of those names. It's
A
like
Shaniqua in name only, or a Shaniqua with a type of like energy behind it.
typically in America, you hear the word Shaniqua or the name
And you
Shaniqua.
feel a type of way.
Well, you feel like it's a black woman,
Yeah. Okay. Word.
So her name was like Shaniqua or something.
Mhm.
It just wasn't like European.
Right.
And Shaniqua is walking into the Christmas party, and one of the owners comes up to her and he's like, "Hey, what's your name?" She's like, "My name's Shaniqua," and she's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you guys always got the weirdest names."
Okay, so that was absolutely a part of why you brought it up. Okay, I was like,
Yeah,
that makes sense now because that's directly related to what you were saying. Okay,
yeah.
that yeah, mm-hmm.
But these were the
Yeah,
people. These were the people who own this
who owned the
company,
company and she
and
worked there, right?
yeah, she worked there,
Yeah, so
and this company was able to exist because of this premise of giving back to the communities that have
right,
been disadvantaged. And the people who own it literally like look down on the people who
yeah,
they're supposed to be propping up.
exactly,
It's and you see a lot of that in America. You see a lot of that in
absolutely.
America.
You see so much of that shit in America. Um, you see a lot of insincere gestures, insincere sweeping gestures. Like, I mean, really, the entire idea of reparations at this point, quantifiably, is really hard. It's really hard to kind of do because like there's so many more moving parts than a lot of people even realize.
Yeah.
Um,
They're
here's something that'll fuck you up. Like I wouldn't be getting reparations from America. If I got reparations, it'd be from the Queen of England because my parents are from
yeah.
English
Yeah.
colonies, and they naturalized in America, so they're not. They were never the lineage of my family was never in American chattel slavery. It was in Caribbean, South American chattel
Yeah.
slavery,
I've
which
never
is not
thought about
better,
that.
but it
I've
ended
never thought
earlier.
about that.
Exactly. So like it's it's hard to like kind of even quantify how to execute that plan. And I remember when I worked at Gelateria up on Grand, I saw a reparations march, and it's like, it's great that like, and it was like all white people like marching
Yeah.
in the march. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is
See a lot of
cool.
that too.
This is cool, but I damn near wanted to like run out the door and be like, you guys can march or you can just like give me money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you're really about that, I think it's kind of like it's pretty opportunistic to just be like, yeah, we're about reparations.
Well,
The government needs to give reparations. It's like, no, I mean,
there's a
this
lot
is
of virtue
yeah,
signaling. There
yeah.
was
That's the word
there was an interesting
for
video
sure.
that I watched recently. It was about voter ID. So needing an
Oh my
ID to
goodness,
vote. And
based in racism, of course.
they were at this college like going around and asking all these white kids, what, I don't think they were at a college, they were just asking white people in general that
Yeah.
were college age and up what they thought about the voter ID laws, and a lot of them were saying it's racist, but they were kind of like they were like talking down on black people as they were saying it's racist. Because
Yeah.
it's like, well, they don't know how to get IDs and they don't have access to the internet. It's like, bitch, have you ever met a black person?
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, why are you speaking about it as if it's like a zoo exhibit or like a school
yeah,
project? Where
exactly,
it's real people.
exactly.
It's real people that are actively being discouraged from getting IDs, from doing all sorts of types of things. It's not just like a static black people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's like, no, there's a system that's actively working against black people. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't
Is
mean that
that
black people won't get up, but
is that really like a thing? Black people, like, is it disproportional that they don't have IDs?
from if I compare all the black people that I know to all the white people I know, hell yeah.
Okay, okay,
That's a whole thing. And that's less to do with like ignorance on black people's folks and more so to do with just like access, like the amount of like voting booths in a mostly black neighborhood, it'll be like 2 as
yeah,
opposed to like 15 in a
yeah,
Republican leaning, mainly white conservative area. And these are how racism is woven into the laws to make change happen slower.
yeah,
Change will happen much slower if we have to keep dealing with this. Change for women will keep going slower if we keep electing these ridiculous conservative Supreme Court nominees. The Supreme Court is no longer even viable in my head.
yeah. Well, it's pretty. If you
It's pretty
overturn Roe v. Wade, the interesting
yeah.
thing about overturning Roe v. Wade is, from what I understand about law, a lot of it's based on precedents. And what Roe v. Wade was is basically a precedent.
Yeah, it wasn't about abortion.
Yeah.
It was it had to do with abortion, but it wasn't about abortion.
It was,
It was about a woman's right to confidentiality with her care provider. That's really
yeah.
what it was about. And so that is why it's much more scary than a lot of people think, because it's even worse than saying anything about abortion. It's now saying that you don't have a right to privacy with your own care practitioner.
Yeah,
And that's the problem.
right to privacy was a part of it. There were
Yeah.
certain rights regarding gay
Yeah.
marriage, but it, a legal precedent. I don't think it's common that a legal precedent gets overturned,
Yeah.
because the way a
Not that
legal
I'm
precedent works is like, so like, say there's a precedent set that if you kill somebody in self-defense, you don't go to jail.
right.
It doesn't count as murder.
Exactly.
So if there's, that's a precedent that we live by for the most part, and that's kind of woven into our law, and it's, happened in some court case somewhere, like Brown versus Board of Education is a prime example of it because we allowed. I don't think any laws changed after Brown versus Board of Education because I don't think there were any laws that prevented. No, that can't be right. That can't be right. But it's
Because it was Jim Crow laws.
yeah,
So they were like laws that were just based in bullshit and
yeah, but I don't
supported by
know.
people that just had that belief.
I don't know if there was a law that specifically said like you can't go to the University of Alabama or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think maybe part of the president. I don't think that one had anything to do with president. Let me but
Let's go through some more Supreme
the
Court
way
cases.
so like the way that fucking precedent works is like somebody sets a precedent, they say okay, this abortion shit is okay, and unless a law goes through the House and the Senate and the executive branch that ultimately changes that, the legal system honors that precedent. And what overturning Roe versus Wade did was kind of overturn a legal precedent, which I
Yeah.
think is something that's pretty uncommon
Yeah,
in the
it's because
American legal
it
system.
was because it wasn't codified by the Senate. It wasn't codified by it
Yeah.
wasn't fully codified by the legislative branch. And so it was a door that was left open
Okay.
that could be influenced by any Supreme Court judge. And that was the big thing that was terrible with Donald Trump, is that he was able to appoint two fucking conservative ass motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, what the fuck? And thank
Well,
God we got, a girl. But
it's
I don't have a lot of faith still.
in who?
Um Kenaji
Okay.
Brown.
Okay.
Or I can't remember her last name. She got judged. Black woman. She's on the Supreme Court, or I think she got confirmed. I haven't been paying too much attention because I don't know. I do believe there's a certain level of impending doom that is arriving on the shores of America within the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
But I don't like to just spew out negativity. I'm always gonna want to be optimistic, but feelings are feelings.
I feel you on that. It's there's this you feel like you need to pay attention. You should know what's
Absolutely.
going on, but at the same time you pay attention, you're just like fuck.
Yeah, you're kind of overwhelmed.
It's exhausting,
So
man.
you gotta leave the door cracked. You can't bust that shit open.
Yeah.
You gotta control the amount of information that goes into your brain, because at the end of the day, the most important universe is the one you live in.
Yeah.
And that's your head, man. You got to make sure your mental is right
Yeah.
and taking care of yourself. So
100%. Well, no offense. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
You want to give the people your social media?
Yeah, baby. You can follow my Instagram at No Offense B. That's Noah as in Noah's Ark, fence as in white picket, and B as in baby or bitch or bro.
Spotify, SoundCloud, all no offense.
Yeah, they're all gonna be No Offense. I'm working on releasing more music so that I'm the only No Offense that pops up.
He's really good. He's really
But
good.
click on I'm the only black No Offense.
It's interesting because there's
picture.
it's your picture now whenever I look it up, but it
Yeah,
used to be this other guy, but I'd click on his picture and all of your music would come up.
Oh my gosh.
So
we love distributors. We love music distributors.
it's a great. His name's No Offense. That's clever as fuck. Go listen to
It took
No
a lot of
Offense.
people. It took a lot of my close friends a long time to realize that it was like No Offense, not just like a person named Noah and then fence.
I think it took me a little. I had to see it a few times on there, and you just realize it as you're saying it. You're like, oh, No Offense. That's
it's
a cool.
like No Offense,
It's
but
No Offense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
boom. See, that's how most people get it.
All right, No Offense with the gallon of the water. We out this
Drink
bitch.
more water.